folks, welcome back. Great to see you here again. Today we're talking all about Garmin Live Scope and my setup, the way I run it, the settings I use and the adjustments that I make along the way. I've been had a bit of contact from a couple of people just reaching out to try and get a bit more information on how I set mine up. So I really appreciate those guys that have reached out and asked those questions. It sort of inspired me to put this one together. And this is just how I do it. It doesn't mean it is the right way, but it might just give a bit of an idea of maybe where to start. Waterways are different, water clarity is different, the terrain you're fishing in is different, so you sort of got to adjust things along the way. What you're probably going to see is, hopefully I've got some footage there of some adjustments that I made on the water, which I've captured with the Active Captain app. I'm also going to show you a few cod, a few yellows, schools of redfin, carp, things like that. I'm going to use a tracker, so be able to track where you'll see a cod cruising through, you'll see a lure dropping down, and it'll just tell you, give you a bit of an idea of exactly what you're looking at. So I'll get started with just a couple of cool clips that I've been able to grab with the Active Captain. I've been using that to upload files onto me phone and then run it through the computer and add it in here. So we'll have a look at a couple of them things and then we'll get back to the settings that I'm using and also the setup with the black box and the power supply and the batteries that I use as well. So I know this is a long-winded intro, but like I said, I have had people that have sort of reached out to try and find out this information. So yeah, hopefully it helps you out with how to set yours up and gets you on track to get into some fish when we can all get out there and get stuck into them again. So we'll get into it. Fair bit going on this one. Got cod number one, the lure coming down there, and that first cod sitting on that low down long just there, right? And look at this fella. I've spooked him up because my plastics come down behind him, spooked him up off the bottom, and he's going to sit underneath that low down too. But two cod, the lure's gone straight over their noses. Just not feeding them, pair. Righto, this one kind of speaks for itself. Get me first glimpse of the cod there sitting down about 6 metres down on that tree. I'm just going to twist, there you go, twist that transducer a little bit more. That is a serious cod sitting down there. You'll see, bang, the lure hits the water there. And it's making its way down behind that cod. The cod's facing straight in towards the boat there. We're in really good shape for a bite here. We don't tend to rush it, he's not going anywhere. He's just hanging around that tree. Trouble is with fishing them hard in the trees like this, is those trees there are going to block out the view of my lure coming into that fish, because it's like shining a torch and that fish and that lure can get into the shadow. So unfortunately it all disappeared there. And you just make out that fish sort of cruising in the opposite direction down towards that second tree. You didn't actually get to see how he actually reacted to that lure, but he's sort of just sneaking back to the bottom there as if he's spooked off a bit, I suppose. Anyway, we're on to another one here. So this is another decent fish, again sitting on a standing timber, similar sort of depth to that last one, and that's that lure coming in just behind him, bumps into the tree and bang, that cod is out of there. He did not like the sound of that lure hitting the tree one little bit. The other thing I've been been asked about is how I've set up my power supply and my black box and things like that. Where is it? Where's my switches? All that sort of thing. So I'm just going to grab the second camera and going to poke it in underneath the deck here and have a bit of a captain cook and see how mine's set up. Again, just the way I done it. Done it all myself in the shed here. There is a few bits and pieces that still need a bit of tidying up, but it's been a pretty busy cod season. I've done a hell of a lot of fishing, so you know, there's always those little bits and pieces that you've got to do, and I'll probably do that now. We're into the yellow season. I won't be running so tired, not being out there so late. It's a bit crazier, and of course we're all sort of locked up at the minute, so it's a good chance to get those bits and pieces sorted out. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. So I'm hoping we can all get a bit of an idea of where we're at. As you can see, that deck hasn't been cleaned off yet from a few cod making a good mess. Anyway, and this is a bit of a show under here, but that don't matter too much. It's a real show actually. Anyway, that's basically where my black box is. A lot of that cable is from an old install. I do have inline fuses and stuff running there. I've adapted onto the power cable there and just up the gauge of that wire to a decent sort of gauge. But yeah, that's basically just mounted on to that plate there, which I can access. Well, this is going to be a rough bit of footage, but anyway, I can access that black box through there, or just take a few screws out and pull that front part of the deck off. That's my battery there. That's the figures and stuff that are on that battery. Yeah, soldered and taped up and shrink wrapped all my connections, and there you can see the black box is sitting underneath there. Yeah, and that second cable, that second set of cables there is just positive and negative going to a dual battery switch, which I can use if I need to use this battery to crank my petrol motor in the case of emergency if I flatten my cranking battery. But the power from there I've just run through to just a switch on my dashboard there. So that, yeah, runs from the battery. The power supply runs through a switch on the dash. It switches off the head unit and the black box as well. You know, just got the standard inline fuses that come out of the packet, nothing special there. That battery's mounted under the deck there. So you really don't have to get to your black box for anything in particular, I don't think. I've never had to get back into mine. I've been running it for probably 6 months now, I suppose. Like I said, it's mounted up to that section there in the boat, in between the different hatches on the boat here. Why would you need to get to it? I don't know. Maybe if you had trouble with it, you might need to get to it. But I can still access it there. I'd probably pull that battery tray out of the road if I had to do anything under there. But yeah, it's just mounted in there, out of the road. There's been people that have had concerns with overheating and things like that. I haven't run this through some time yet, but there is a fairly big cavity underneath that deck there. There's a fair bit of breathing room for it, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. The energy lithium deep cycle battery there, I haven't come even close to draining that out, even on, you know, a 3-day trip without charging, running it a couple of sessions a day, haven't had any trouble. So anyway, we'll get back in now and have a look at a few more images of some cod and that I've captured over the winter season. Thanks for tuning in again. Thanks to everyone who has you know, reached out with messages and things like that. If you've got a message, bang it up there in the comments, track me down on Facebook Messenger, whatever you want to do, and just hit me up. Yeah, I enjoy helping out. anyone in any way I can. And like I said, this is just my setup. This is only the way I do it. So far it's working pretty well for me. I might make some adjustments as I go along. See me 8412 here, and I'm just going to record that on my phone so I can show you this footage so you don't have to try and see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go through some of the basic stuff. So here you can see my gain. I've got it sitting there at 63, which would have been from the last time I was out. I usually actually run that down a little bit, sort of around, the mid to high 50s, I suppose. Before we go any further, let's just start from the beginning, right? So there we are, we've got our live scope. We've got our live scope, working away. We just flip up that menu up from the bottom there, hit the menu and go into our settings. So my gain's sitting there at 57. That's about average for what I sort of run. It does vary a bit, and you'll probably see as we move through here, I do adjust it up and down a little bit depending on if I'm on rock, it'll come down. If the water's really dirty, I might just pull it back just to clean the screen up a bit. I am a bloke who doesn't mind sort of looking through a little bit of clutter. I don't need to see a perfectly black background. I don't mind some clutter in there that I've got to read through, just so I can get the shot of those fish a little bit further out from the boat. So really, appearance, colour scheme, lava is probably my favourite. It looks a little bit like that. So we'll leave that there for that. In the night time, I generally go for a floodlight or a Caribbean. I don't know, it just seems a little bit easier on the eyes to use those ones. Just go back into it there, so nice setup. I've got my noise reject set to high. Ghost reject I actually usually quite often run on low, and my TVG on low. I do play around with those settings a bit, and it does sort of change and improve and make the images better or worse. It's generally stuff that I do on the fly, but if you start with those settings, I think you'll find it's a pretty good spot to start. And again, it does depend on what sort of fishing you're doing. This might be completely different when we move into spring and I start chasing golden perch. But this is sort of the setup that I've been using chasing the cod through the winter time. I have used a little bit on the yellows there in the late season during the day, but similar sort of settings. So we'll keep moving on here. So you can see there my range is set out to 24 metres and a 12 metre depth. I usually find that's pretty good. I'll sometimes push out to 26. Just gives you that extra couple of metres to be able to pinpoint those fish and see your lure hitting the water. But that's really about it. That's really my sort of settings. Like you can see that the gain's sort of sitting at 57. The main things that I would probably change right now, I'm going to change something. I'm going to turn the transmit off. You don't want to be running that while you're sitting here in the shed. So just go back through again there. You've got that layout there, reverse ranges on minimum. I like to see out in front of me boat. Again, when it comes to chasing yellows, especially vertically, I'll move that so it's in full reverse range so that I can see those yellows cruising around out the back of the boat there as well. So that is about all we need to look at there. So we'll just jump into a little bit of footage, which will show you you know, just what my images are looking like, and a couple of settings as well. Righto, so that was pretty close there earlier to getting this fish to bite. We're still on this metre 4, and we've sort of lost him there because the boat's moving around, but right there you just see him slightly turn. So he's turned onto that lure, and right here we're going to get a shot of him. He's hooked up there. So that's pretty cool. That's how come I knew what size this fish was, because we actually hooked and landed this one. So anyway, that's a bit of an idea of what a metre 4 looks like. Running the DRF pole, which you know a few people have already asked me about. Yeah, pretty cool pole. That ram mount's a bit noisy when she does move. Generally, once it's tightened up, it's all good. And that head unit there is run off a ram mount as well. You can see that there. Probably one thing I would do different next time would be I wouldn't screw it on there, because once I screw it on there I've got holes in the aluminium, right? which you can see over here. When I did have a unit mounted over there, I've now got holes there that I don't really need. I'd probably just mount that off that deck there next time. But having said that, I wouldn't move that one there from where it is, because it suits the Quinny really well to be sitting up there like that. So anyway, that's just a couple of things that I might do a bit different. So hopefully it won't be long. We'll be into those springtime yellers, and maybe I'll catch you out in the water sometime.